Hi, I'm Margie Holmes, psychologist, author, and educator. This week's show is the final episode of Ask Margie. Thank you for your funny, insightful, but most of all, straight from the heart comments that made up so much of our episodes on sex, love, and everything else in between. I will still be writing for Rappler though, having a weekly column, two-pronged in lifestyle, and an almost weekly column, Body Mind, on move.ph. For our last episode, we'll talk about online websites for hookups like Grindr, Tinder, and Scout. Anonymous One suggested one for gay men, which is Planet Romeo. He says, "For me, online hookups is like online shopping. Very convenient. You don't need to spend money for bars just to meet someone, and no need to be in an awkward situation if you don't like the guy. One of the exciting things is that you can check hundreds of profiles in 30 minutes. People share nude photos, so it feels like showing the spare parts of the car before riding it. No drama and no pakipot." I asked, would you ever participate in or consider being part of online hookups? And if so, or if not so, why or why not? Steve Rogers says, you'd need a high risk tolerance and a fair degree of desperation, no? And what do you do when you show up and the party of the second part is grotesque? Well, Steve, I guess that means no then, right? May Magsino said, I used to be a part of an online hookup, though I really didn't consider myself an active participant. When my European friends who I was chatting with on Skype suddenly kissed, stripped, and had sex right there while I was there with them, I started screaming to remind them that I was there. Bert Kibuyan, if I were single, I might, just for the heck of it. Nowadays, online hooking up is quite common because of its convenience and speed. And the whole world is open, not just locally. I think people who rely on the internet to meet people are generally shy, lacking social skills, insecure, and lack confidence. Some may also be weirdos. You don't really know what kind of person you're hooking up with because you don't see them face to face. They could assume a different persona, post a different photo, pretend to be someone else. It can be scary out there in cyberspace. Lovi Villacruzes, this is good for people who are only seeking carnal pleasures without attachment, but it leads to cheating, especially for people who are attached. From Anonymous 2, I once got to know a person through FB. We kind of knew each other by name and by reputation, but never communicated before. To cut it short, we did hook up. It wasn't a bad experience. Actually, we still communicate a bit. But I wouldn't repeat the experience because someone is bound to learn about what happened, and I couldn't risk that. Also, I don't want to get emotionally attached to something which I know wouldn't result to anything. Third, owing to the age gap, we live in different worlds. Mahirap maghanap ng connection. What made it exciting at that time was that it was a clandestine thing. Some of you also shared observations on who are more likely to use hookup services: men, women, straight, LGBT, etc. Anonymous 3 says, I think that straight men and gay men are more open to online hookups, generally because they have less to fear. Women still have the date rape thing to worry about, and men are either really brave or quite stubborn, so they really try this field. However, Anonymous 4 added, someone I knew said females are quite upfront too once they get to talk. It may be that women are open to, but more discreet about it. And yes, I think being more discreet about it means they are more careful in actually meeting people. At least that's what the other research says, right? That it is not a matter of sexual orientation which determines whether you're willing to actually meet someone. It is more a matter of gender or sex. You know, men are more willing to meet other people, whether women or gay men. But women, whether lesbian or straight women, are a little bit more hesitant, perhaps because of the physical dangers involved. Christine Chan says, I think for men, it'd be more no frills, just sex. So they're more open into trying out hookup sites. With some women, they hide under the pretense of looking for friends instead of just sex. Maybe they do this so they can easily decline creepy suitors. Queer Girl shares her experience about different hookup services. I like everyone, but all the online hookups I've had were with men. I have gay guy friends and they use Grindr and Planet Romeo because these two are established hookup sites. OkCupid and Craigslist are more open to diversity. Based on observation, most hetero women I come across with are more set on relationships as opposed to hookups. I found Tinder to be the least LGBT-friendly app since limited yung filtering system nila and they don't really let you specify your orientation unless ikaw mismo magsulat sa description box mo na you're gay or lesbian. In my case, I had to blindly go through women's profiles, hit like on those I find cute or interesting, then hope they like me back because they would be the only way that I'd know they're also queer. Anonymous 5 provides a different but practical view. I am trans and I don't believe in virtual hookups, especially from random people online. There is no guarantee they are infection-free. Two of our viewers shared their experiences and advice on using these apps and websites to meet new people. Anoni6 says, I wanted to meet new people and maybe find people worth dating. But at the same time, I was attached to how comfortable it was to stay in my world. Tinder seemed like a middle ground and a convenient start to seeing what was out there and interact with other people. I had someone try to meet me up one night, which I wasn't up to. I prefer to have a flowing conversation going, something that promises to be interesting before I go out of my way physically. I've also been making it clear off the bat that I'm not a party animal. Some tell me that they're bored, which of course has the effect of me finding them boring. Nothing interesting has happened since I joined. Kinikilig lang ako every time I get a match, especially if it's with someone who looked out of my league. There are also people I match with who haven't sent me any messages. I would recommend it to everyone. It's a harmless, practically anonymous way of seeing what's out there as long as you're not gullible enough to be led into a situation you don't want to find yourself in, you'll be fine. And between seeing the same people over and over and seeing what's out there, recommend the latter na, diba? Even if you get 0 dates out of this, it is its own experience. Another, Anonymous 7, gives us her insights about why people use hookup sites and how to enjoy them. Hookup sites operate on tacit rules of discretion, coded expression, and yet participants are quite direct in speaking about what they need or want. Sexual gratification is immediate. It does not require courtship. Emotional intimacy is an optional consideration further down the path of engagement. The stigma of using hookup sites will be diminished by a slight change in our attitude towards new and unfamiliar things. There are also countless personal encounter sites online and on smartphone apps. The possibilities are endless. Know what you want and go from there. If you want a quick hookup, there are sites for that. If you want a more involved search requiring smarter conversations, as an example, OkCupid may serve you well. Browsing through all the sites is an insightful social experience. If you get laid, then well and fine. If not, at least you made an effort to check it out. Stay safe and happy hunting. And I just wanted to say that that is excellent advice. And I also wanted to say that the stigma for hookups will also be diminished if more and more people are willing to come out and say, yes, I have used this hookup site. It is important that people are willing to shed the cloak of anonymity, I think, before the stigma will be lost. Because of course, even though we are so happy that anonymous people have spoken up, because this is one of the first times they have, still to be willing to say, ako ito, this is me, Margie Holmes, and I am saying, yes, I've used a hookup site, yes, I love to be peed on, etc., is what is the most convincing, that there is nothing to be ashamed about, because you are willing to go to the mat for it, okay? But going back to hookup sites and moving away from stigma, what I find most optimistic about this particular show, focusing on that, is a conversation between two respondents of the show. One is Eric Manalastas and Joseph Brillantes. So allow me to quote how their conversation went, okay? Joseph Brillantes says, Grindr is 95% for hookups, as the gays. Eric Julian Manalastas says, Eric is a psychologist who is very active in the PAP convention, which is the Psychological Association of the Philippines annual convention this August. Anyway, so Eric says, actually, we have one paper in the upcoming PAP convention that actually looks at how Filipino gay men use Grindr for purposes other than hooking up. For example, to explore their identity, to figure out what gay culture is like being connected to a larger gay community, etc. And for me, this is one of the better qualities about hookup sites, the fact that it evolves, not necessarily to something better, because for all we know, being able to hook up without any strings attached is one of the best things that could happen to someone. But it evolves so that not only men who want to pick up other men are helped, although, as I said, this is not necessarily a bad thing as long as sana safety rules apply, but it also helps other gay men who want to look for something else, who are looking for something else. I mean, and this is the most wonderful thing about it, that these young men have found a way to do it for themselves. Nobody said, hey, maybe you can use Grindr for X or Y. Just slowly, they realize not only is it a way to have sex with other men, it is also a way to just meet other men who have the same issues as you. It is also a way to explore and practice what kind of gay person or what kind of person you want to be. And as I say again, the most lovely thing about it is that it is young men doing it for themselves. There is nothing top-down about it at all. It is more bottom-up. And way to go, guys. The other thing I love about hookup sites is what happened to LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn was once called the ugly stepsister of social networking sites. And some of the people, myself included, believe it is because LinkedIn purposely projected themselves as a professional networking site, you know, which isn't really attractive for people who want to play. So what happened was that LinkedUp was started. LinkedUp used the data from LinkedIn, but it was started so that other people could meet each other. So like how Professor Manalastas describes it, several applications can be used. You can start with one thing like LinkedIn and then use it not only for professional meetings, etc., but use it through LinkedUp, which is a totally different app. Use it so that you can meet and do other things, so that, you know, in addition to merely hooking up, you can use it in ways that will include helping, giving, listening to, and yes, having fun with others. Well, that's it for the show. A big thanks to all of you who made Ask Margie part of your weekly habit. You can still read my columns on Rappler's Two-Pronged and Body Mind, not to mention my 5 days a week column, Walang Bulahan, on Abante. As always, you can still send me your comments, questions, and insights on Facebook or on Twitter. Our Margie Holmes, psychologist, author, and educator, signing off.